My hidden talent exposed at work. It happened in the middle of a boring workday, the kind where nothing special ever seems to happen. I was at my desk, typing away, half listening to the chatter around me. My boss had just left for a meeting, the office printer was making its usual annoying noises, and I was thinking about what to eat for lunch. And then, just like that, my secret slipped out in front of everyone. One small mistake. That's all it took. One little thing I thought no one would ever see or hear. I don't even know how it happened. My coworker Lisa asked me a question, something simple, something I could have brushed off with a casual reply. But instead of answering the way I usually would, my body just reacted. Without thinking, I showed a part of myself I had hidden for years. It was like a reflex, something natural that I had trained myself to keep quiet about. The whole office froze. I swear you could have heard a pin drop. Everyone turned and stared at me like I had grown a second head. My fingers were still hovering over the keyboard, my eyes wide, and in that moment I knew. My hidden talent, the thing I had guarded like my life depended on it, was out in the open. No one spoke for a few seconds, but the silence was heavy. I felt my heart slam against my ribs, my throat closing up, and then, just when I thought maybe they'd all laugh it off or go back to work, Lisa's voice cut through the silence. "Wait, did you just..." I froze. I couldn't answer. Because if I did, that would mean admitting it. That would mean confirming something I had kept locked away my whole life. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, people leaning over their cubicles to get a better look at me. I could feel the heat crawling up my neck. My palms were sweating, and all I could think was, this is it. This is the moment everything changes. And then my manager walked back in. She stopped dead in her tracks when she saw everyone staring at me. "What's going on here?" she demanded. Before I could open my mouth, Lisa pointed right at me. "You won't believe what she just did." And that's where I'll leave it for now. Because to explain how I got to that moment, how one small slip turned my entire life upside down, I need to go back to the beginning. I've always been different. Not in an obvious way. To most people, I'm just another 20-something woman working a regular office job. I keep to myself, I'm polite, I hit deadlines, and I don't cause trouble. I'm the kind of person who blends into the background, and I like it that way. But beneath all that, I've had something I never wanted anyone to know about. A talent, sure, but one that could make me stand out too much, make people look at me differently. I learned early on in life that being different doesn't always make people admire you. Sometimes it makes them cruel. In school, I kept quiet. I didn't join clubs, I didn't show off. I kept my talent buried so deep, even my closest friends never guessed. It was mine, private and safe. And then came this job. Just another office role, filing reports, making spreadsheets, the usual grind. I thought I was safe here. No one would suspect a thing. But the truth is, my talent never really stayed hidden. It was always there, just beneath the surface, threatening to slip through if I wasn't careful. Some days it felt like I was walking around with a ticking bomb inside me. And on that day, it finally went off. The morning had started like any other. I got to work early, coffee in hand, earbuds in as I scrolled through my phone. The office was quiet then too. Just the hum of computers waking up. I liked those moments, when I could almost convince myself I was invisible. By 9 o'clock, the place filled up. Lisa came in wearing her usual too bright lipstick, chatting loudly about her weekend. Brian started heating up his weird-smelling breakfast burrito in the office microwave. My boss called an impromptu meeting that dragged on way too long. Normal. Safe. Predictable. Until lunchtime. We were all sitting in the break room when it happened. Lisa teased me about something. I can't even remember what now. I think it was about how quiet I was. How I never joined in when everyone else was laughing. She nudged me, trying to get a reaction. And that's when I slipped. I didn't mean to. It just happened. One second I was holding it in like I always did. The next it burst out of me before I could stop it. The sound echoed through the room. Heads turned, forks froze midair. It was like the world had stopped spinning. Lisa's eyes went wide, her mouth dropping open. "Did you just..." I froze. I couldn't answer. Because if I did, that would mean admitting it. That would mean confirming what I had kept locked away my whole life. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, people leaning over their cubicles to get a better look at me. I could feel the heat crawling up my neck. My palms were sweating, and all I could think was, this is it. This is the moment everything changes. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying it over and over in my head. The looks on their faces, the way the room fell silent, the whispers that followed me back to my desk. By the time I left the office, it felt like everyone knew. Even people who hadn't been there were giving me strange looks, like word had spread faster than I could walk. I told myself, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe tomorrow it would all blow over. Maybe people would forget. But deep down, I knew better. Secrets don't stay buried once they're exposed. And mine was about to take on a life of its own. And the worst part? I had no idea how far the fallout would go. Because the very next day, when I walked into the office, something happened that I never could have prepared for. And that's where chapter 1 ends. Because the real chaos was only just beginning. When I walked into the office the next morning, the air felt different, heavier. Like everyone knew something about me and they were waiting to see what I would do next. Normally I'd slip in quietly, set my bag down, and melt into the background while everyone else got settled. But not that day. Heads turned as soon as I walked through the glass doors. Some people tried to hide it, glancing quickly then looking away, but others stared openly. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe I hadn't really slept yesterday, maybe no one noticed as much as I thought they did. But then Lisa gave me that smile, too sweet, too fake, and said, "Morning, sleep well after yesterday?" My stomach dropped. I wanted to ask her what she meant. I wanted to play dumb, but the way she said it told me everything. She knew, and if she knew, chances were the whole office did. I mumbled something about being tired and slid into my chair, forcing my eyes on my computer screen. But it didn't matter what I typed. My hands were shaking too badly to make sense of anything. The whisper started almost immediately, quiet enough that I couldn't make out words, but loud enough that I knew they were about me. Someone laughed under their breath. Someone else coughed, muttering to their neighbor. I wanted to disappear. By mid-morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my mug and headed for the break room, hoping some coffee would steady me. The room was empty when I walked in, and for a moment I let out a breath. Alone at last. But then the door swung open and in came Brian. He leaned against the counter, stirring his drink way too casually. "So, interesting talent you've got," he said, not looking at me, but grinning into his cup. My heart froze. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't," he smirked, taking a sip. "Don't worry, your secret's safe with me, for now." The way he said it like he was holding something over me made my skin crawl. I couldn't tell if he was joking or serious, but either way, the message was clear. People weren't going to let this go. When I got back to my desk, I noticed something on my screen. Someone had sent me an anonymous message through the company chat system. It said, "Show us again." My hands went cold. I stared at the words, my throat tightening. Whoever sent it didn't even bother with a greeting, just a demand. I didn't reply. I couldn't. But ignoring it didn't help. A few minutes later, another message popped up. "We know you're hiding more." I closed the window and tried to focus on my work, but my mind was racing. Who was behind it? Lisa? Brian? Someone else who had been in the break room yesterday? By lunchtime, I was jumpy, watching everyone too closely, waiting for the next whisper or smirk. And just when I thought I might get through the day if I kept my head down, something happened that pushed everything over the edge. The office phone rang. My manager picked it up, spoke for a moment, then called my name. "Can you come to my office, please?" Every pair of eyes followed me as I stood, my legs heavy as lead. I walked down the hall, each step louder in my ears than the last. I stepped into her office and she closed the door behind me. Her face was unreadable, serious in a way that made my chest tighten. She said, "Sit down." I sat. She folded her hands on the desk, staring at me. She said, "I've been hearing things about yesterday." My stomach twisted. This was it, the fallout I had dreaded. But I didn't get the chance to answer, because before I could open my mouth, she leaned forward, her eyes sharp, and said something I never expected. "Tell me the truth. How long have you been hiding this from us?" And that's when I realized the fallout wasn't just whispers and rumors anymore. This was bigger. My manager knew something or thought she did, and if she pressed me, I wouldn't be able to keep the secret longer. I froze in that chair, her question hanging in the air, knowing that whatever I said next could change everything. And then, before I could speak, someone knocked on her office door. "Sorry to interrupt, but you'll want to hear this too." And just like that, the room spun out of my control. The knock on the office door made me jump. My manager's eyes narrowed, flicking from me to the door, then back again. "Come in," she said, her voice tight. The door opened, and Lisa stepped inside like she owned the place. She didn't even hesitate, just waltzed right up to the desk with that smug smile she always wore when she thought she had something juicy. "Sorry to interrupt," she said sweetly, though her tone was anything but sorry, "but I think it's time we all stop pretending we don't know what's going on." My stomach dropped. My hands curled into fists on my lap. She wasn't just here to stir the pot. She was here to blow everything up. My manager frowned. "What exactly are you suggesting, Lisa?" Lisa glanced at me, then back at her. "I'm suggesting that she pointed directly at me, has been keeping a secret from all of us. And yesterday, we finally got a glimpse of it." The silence in the room was suffocating. I could feel my manager's eyes drilling into me, waiting for me to deny it, to explain, to say something. But I couldn't. My throat was dry, my brain scrambled. Every word I tried to form died before it reached my tongue. Lisa smirked at my silence. "See? She's not even denying it." My manager leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. "Well, is she right? Are you hiding something?" My hands trembled in my lap. I wanted to scream, to tell them both to leave me alone, but the walls were closing in, and I knew there was no easy way out. I opened my mouth to speak, finally, to defend myself. But before I could get the words out, another knock came at the door. This one louder, sharper. "Excuse me," Brian's voice called. "You might want to see this." My manager's brow furrowed. "What now?" she muttered, standing to open the door. Brian stepped in, holding his phone like it was a trophy. He looked straight at me, his grin wide and cruel. Someone recorded it. Yesterday. And now, it's spreading. The room spun, my vision blurred. My secret wasn't just whispered about anymore. It wasn't just a rumor. It was evidence, and it was out there. And in that instant, I knew there was no putting it back in the box. The words, "it's spreading," echoed in my ears like an alarm I couldn't shut off. My manager's head snapped toward Brian, her voice sharp. "What do you mean, spreading?" Brian smirked, scrolling on his phone. Someone uploaded the clip to the office group chat. And from there, well, you know how fast these things move. I've already seen it reposted twice. My stomach dropped so hard, I thought I'd be sick. Lisa's eyes lit up like she'd just won the lottery. "Oh, this is too good." I wanted to scream at her, to grab the phone from Brian's hand, to delete everything before it could spread further. But I couldn't move. My body felt frozen in place, like my chair had swallowed me whole. My manager reached for the phone. "Show me." Brian handed it over, and for a long moment, the only sound in the room was the faint buzz of the overhead lights. Then my manager's expression hardened. She set the phone down slowly, like it had burned her hand, and looked straight at me. "Is this real?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't even lift my head. My face was hot, my throat tight, and all I could think was, it's over. It's really over. Lisa folded her arms, looking far too pleased with herself. "Well, are you going to admit it now, or keep pretending we didn't all just see proof with our own eyes?" The silence stretched so long it felt unbearable. Finally, I managed to whisper, "I didn't mean for anyone to know." That was all it took. The room erupted. Brian laughed under his breath, shaking his head. "Unbelievable. All this time and you just sit there like nothing's wrong?" Lisa pounced. "Exactly. She's been hiding this from us. If she can lie about something like this, what else is she keeping from everyone?" My manager raised her hand, trying to cut through the noise, but it was too late. The door was still open, and people outside had heard enough to start whispering again. A couple of curious faces peeked in, eyes wide with excitement, like they were watching a reality show unfold live in front of them. The spiral had begun, and I couldn't stop it. By the time I stumbled back to my desk, the atmosphere in the office was poisonous. Phones buzzed with messages, people leaned close to their neighbors, whispering and smirking. A few gave me pitying looks, but most just looked entertained, like I was some kind of spectacle. At lunch, no one sat near me. The table that usually had space suddenly filled up too quickly. When I tried to grab my food, Lisa made some snide comment loud enough for everyone to hear, and the room burst into laughter. By the afternoon, it wasn't just the office. I started getting texts from people outside of work. An old friend messaged me, "Hey, just saw something about you. Is it true?" I didn't even know how they'd seen it. It had barely been half a day, and already my private world was tearing open for strangers to dissect. That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages, missed calls, notifications from social media accounts I hadn't touched in months. It was like the whole world had decided I was fair game. And the worst part, I hadn't even had a chance to explain. By the next morning, walking into work felt like stepping into a war zone. I could feel the weight of every stare, the judgment, the curiosity. Someone had printed out a screenshot from the video and taped it to the break room fridge like it was a joke. I ripped it down with shaking hands, but the damage was done. People laughed. By the time my manager called another meeting, I knew things were spiraling faster than I could keep up with. She looked tired, frustrated, her patience thinning. "This can't continue," she said flatly. "The office isn't a circus, and whatever's going on with you needs to be addressed now before it gets worse." But even as she said that, another phone buzzed. Someone chuckled, and then Lisa's voice cut in, gleeful as ever. "Too late. It's already gone viral." And in that moment, I realized the spiral wasn't just within the office. My secret wasn't just local gossip. It had spilled out into the world. And if it was out there for everyone to see, then the real storm hadn't even hit yet. I didn't think it could get worse. I told myself the whispers, the office laughter, the screenshots taped to the fridge, those were the worst they could get. But I was wrong. So wrong. The morning of the climax began with a phone call. I was halfway out the door, keys in hand, when my phone lit up with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Is this my name?" "Yes," I said cautiously. This is Channel 9 News. We'd like to ask you about the video circulating online. My chest collapsed. My knees almost gave out right there in the doorway. The news. It had reached the news. I hung up without a word, my hands shaking so violently that I dropped my phone. When I picked it up again, there were already 3 more missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. By the time I reached the office, reporters were waiting outside the building. Cameras, microphones, a crowd of strangers shouting my name as though I were some kind of celebrity scandal. I tried to push through, but flashes blinded me, questions pummeled me. Is it true? Why did you hide it? What else are you keeping secret? I shoved my way inside, my pulse hammering. My manager was waiting in the lobby, her face pale and grim. You need to come with me, she said. She led me into a conference room. The entire management team was there, seated in a stiff circle like a tribunal. My video was paused on the big screen behind them, the frozen image of me, the slip, the talent I'd hidden like a knife twisting in my chest. This is unacceptable, one of the directors said. It's unprofessional, it's disruptive, and now it's public. I didn't mean for this to happen, I croaked. But it did happen, another cut in sharply, and now our company name is being dragged through it too. I wanted to scream that it wasn't fair, that it wasn't even related to my work, that I hadn't asked for any of this. But my voice was gone. All I could do was sit there as they tore me apart with words sharper than blades. Lisa was the one who delivered the final blow. She barged into the room, uninvited, phone in hand, grinning like the devil himself. Just thought you should know, she said, waving her screen. It hit 1 million views. The room erupted into chaos, managers talking over one another, my boss trying to restore order, but my ears rang so loudly I couldn't make out a word. 1 million people, 1 million strangers, watching me, judging me, laughing at me. I bolted from the room, tears burning my eyes. I didn't care where I went. I just needed to get out. But when I burst into the open office, everyone was watching me. Some with pity, some with disgust, most with amusement. Phones held up, recording. Brian smirked from his desk. Guess you're famous now. That was it, the breaking point. Something inside me snapped. I turned on him, my voice shaking with fury. You think this is funny? You think destroying my life is a joke? The office went silent. For the first time in days, all eyes were on me, not as gossip, not as a punchline, but as a storm about to break. You don't know what it's like, I spat, my voice rising. You don't know what it costs to keep something buried your whole life, and now you've ripped it out of me, for clicks, for laughs, for nothing. No one moved. No one breathed. Lisa's laugh broke the silence, cold and cruel. Oh, please, stop acting like you're the victim. If it was such a big deal, maybe you shouldn't have slipped up in the first place. The rage that had been boiling inside me finally exploded. You don't get to decide what I share. You don't get to expose me just because you're bored with your pathetic life. Gasps, whispers, phones recording every second of my outburst. I knew I was finished, but I didn't care anymore. If the world wanted a show, then I'd give them one. My manager tried to intervene, but I was already walking towards the door. Every eye followed me, every phone tracked me. I stopped in the doorway and turned back one last time. You all wanted the truth? Fine, you've got it. But remember this, once something's out, you can't take it back. And when it comes for you, because it will, don't come crying to me. Then I left. I didn't wait for HR to call me. I didn't wait for the inevitable email about termination. I walked out of that building and into the swarm of reporters. And for the first time, I didn't run. I looked straight into the nearest camera, my heart pounding, and said, yes, it's real. It's me. And if you think this makes me weak, you're wrong. The crowd roared with questions. Flashes went off like lightning. But I kept walking. Past the cameras, past the microphones, past the chaos. For the first time since the secret slipped, I felt free. Broken. But free. Because the brutal truth was, once the world has stripped everything away, there's nothing left to hide. And that's when the story really ended. For a week, I stayed off everything. Social media, email, even my phone most of the time. I thought if I went quiet, the storm would pass. People would move on to the next scandal, the next meme, the next person to tear apart. And in some ways, they did. The constant buzzing of my phone slowed. The reporters stopped calling. Even the hateful DMs thinned out. I started to believe I could slip back into anonymity, maybe rebuild in peace. But then one morning, I checked my email for the first time in days. Buried among the junk and unread messages was one subject line that froze me in place. We saw your video. We need to talk. It wasn't spam. It wasn't a troll. It was from an organization I'd never heard of before. But the signature at the bottom looked official. Too official. Government-level official. My hands shook as I read the rest of the message. They didn't just see my talent. They understood it. They claimed it was rare, valuable, something that could change things. They wanted to meet. And that's when I realized maybe my life wasn't destroyed. Maybe it was only just beginning. But in whose hands that beginning would land?
That was the part that scared me most.